Hey, everybody. How is everyone? So everything looks okay. Sound is nice. I don't know if it's still there, but 7195 was a Italian ham calling CQ. Here we go. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of the live shortwave show. And my name is Gilles, located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And we are here to entertain and have fun talking about radio and tuning the bands and just taking it easy on this mid-week edition of the live show. We are slowly going towards Christmas. Pretty crazy. Time flies. And it's just amazing when you think about it. And I think, I was thinking how a year ago, December 2019, I don't think no one would have ever thought that 2020 would be like it is. And it's just crazy. Here in Quebec, actually, we had a alert on our smartphones today with the kind of the emergency alert system, in which the government has asked us to really, really respect as much as we can the lockdown that they're doing, and really do social distancing as best we can, because number of cases are rising, and the hospitals here are close to the edge of really being overloaded, and really crazy what's happening. And we're going back to really hard measures of confinement like we had in March and April. Back with waiting in line to go to the groceries, stuff like that. And there's even talk of maybe starting this coming Monday of a severe lockdown like we had in March and April. Pretty crazy. I really hope that the vaccine and all of that works, because I think we can all say we're all have enough of all of the confinement stuff, and we want to have some kind of normal life. So I hope that tonight's show takes your mind off of that confinement for a little while, and that things are going to get better eventually as we get into the new year. And somebody asked me today, so, do you have a Christmas gift, radio-related Christmas gift? And no, not really. I think that, I had the Texan PL990X. It's a pretty good gift. It was very, very much in advance, but I think I had a pretty cool year with all of that. No radio-related gifts that I can think of for Christmas, and I got what I need. And this is I can't really, maybe an antenna, I don't know, a discount to with that I could add to my mobile vertical for good VHF UHF listening. And of course, we are here twice a week on this live show talking about radio. Yes, this 100-plus-year-old thing that drives your smartphone, because your smartphone's a transceiver. It just is a digital transceiver, but it is a transceiver. If you think radio is an old thing, well, your smartphone is then an old thing, because it uses radio waves, and radio is still a thing for modern technology. We are live twice a week, Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, North America. That's why we say Wednesday, because technically 0 hours UTC is Thursday. And for a big part of the world, we are Thursday. And this is a show about radio, shortwave radio, and radio in general, AM, FM, long wave. We are live also on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern. That's 20 hours Universal Time. And basically, we just have a lot of fun talking about radio. And it's really cool to be here and to enjoy this great little moment. Today, my purchase, the Gail Van Horn Global Radio Guide. This is a nice little publication for those that don't mind buying electronic publications. This is cheap and it's a very complete guide. When you look at the edition, it has table of content, listener's guide to the world's tropical bands. Then you have propagation and darkness path for tropical bands. You got eavesdropping on international broadcasters via satellite, traveling the globe via music on shortwave. You have nostalgia radio 1922. You have non-directional beacon information, long-wave ham bands, loafers, navigational systems. You've got what's an SDR, software-defined receivers. You've got frequency guide by range. So this is very complete. You have a complete frequency guide by megahertz. A little bit like I did when I did the megahertz by megahertz tuning. But this is all the information and active frequencies that have been noted lately, megahertz by megahertz. Really a lot of stuff in there. I think this is a really cool guide to get, honestly. And it's very complete in its 768 pages of information, guys. That's really a lot of stuff. So the winter edition, it's a Kindle book on Amazon. I believe in the US it's $7.99. In Canada it's $9.99. I mean, this is so cheap for such a really cool guide. Gail Van Horn is known for decades in having books and having information, including in monitoring times. So why not get your copy? It's a really nice guide. I know a lot of you don't like electronic stuff, electronic publications, but this is really, really cool. So welcome to the show. There's a beautiful chat room for those that enjoy the company of others and want to chat along as we talk about radio, tune radio, and so on. There's also the Facebook group, which is a nice group of people that we keep clean and keep functioning with people that are there to help each other and be great radio citizens that just want to share one thing, their passion for radio and nothing else. This is a place where everybody respects everybody else. So why not join it? It has the same name as this YouTube channel, official SWL channel. And it is a great pleasure to have all of you and see your interactions and see your posts and all. It's really, really nice. So welcome aboard to this Wednesday edition, Thursday edition for some of you, and hope that you enjoy today. The drink of choice tonight is, of course, vodka and cranberry juice. Cheers. So it's like somebody asked me, how is it? It's in this big glass. It's 3 ounces of vodka, about half. The rest is half soda water, and the other half is half cranberry juice. Bobby Burgess, WA5107 SWL. Nice to have you here from Morgan City, Louisiana, USA. Bill, nice to have you on board. My new female cat's name is Sophie. Cool. She likes watching Paul on the big screen. I don't know if Paul's going to be here, but nice to have you on board with Sophie. Kamexi76, nice to have you here. My Jam, nice to have you on board. Rufus Newt, nice to have you here. Rufus from the Laurentian Valley, Ontario. Eyebrawler for Arkansas, nice to have you here. Joe Pecky from Newmarket, Virginia, nice to have you here, Joe. Others Alley Crafter's Kitchen, nice to have you on board from Massachusetts. Having the time of my life with my Atwater Kent 20 CTRF 5 tube set. These are so much fun. I like old rigs. I mean, when I see an old radio, tube radios, there's really, and we have to say it, there's a magic in these tube radios that you just like look at them, especially when they're working and you can see the glow of the tubes and everything. There's something magical about them. It's just incredible. And, you know, we find that magical, but imagine going back in time, being at the time when radio started and electronics started to appear in homes with radios and TVs, how fascinating that must have been to have these big radios with glowing tubes receiving invisible waves. I mean, we are amazed at that technology of radio already. But imagine when you were at the start of all of that, how fascinating it must have been for so many people just looking and saying, wow, I'm getting invisible waves giving me some program out somewhere. Scott Granston, nice to have you here from a chilly Massachusetts. Might see northern lights here tonight if weather cooperates. Maybe not tonight. Let me just check the solar indices. So just to talk about it a little bit. So here's the thing. So there's an update on space weather. Right now, the K index is at 2. It's rather quiet. So there's no northern lights really for now. It's a very thin, really, you know, for Nordic above 60-degree latitude probably right now. So according to space weather, so okay, here it goes. There was a solar flare, a small solar flare, not a really big one, but there was a solar flare. It was Earth directed, and the satellites detected that there was a coronal mass ejection that was sent towards Earth. This is not a fast-moving one. It's not a very powerful one either, because the flare was kind of small. But here it says, updated storm forecast on space weather. A CME is coming, and it could hit Earth's magnetic field within the next 12 hours. So the next 12 hours, you know, it could be maybe at midnight. Or, you know, you never know. So maybe, who knows? New modeling by NOAA focuses attention on December 10th as the date of the greatest geomagnetic activity, specifically between the hours of 21 and 23:59 UT on December the 10th. So that's tomorrow night that it's going to be there, when storm levels could reach G3 category. So what's G3? There are 5 geomagnetic storm categories. G1 is minor storm. G3 is a pretty good storm, average, you know, like moderate storm. And G5 is, of course, the ultimate storm that is super strong. It says here these are unfortunately daylight hours in the USA, 1 p.m. to 3:59 p.m. Pacific. 21 UTs, 4 p.m. So yeah, it's kind of a hard one. Here it's going to be a tough one. Maybe the East Coast, but even that is going to be rough. But prime time for aurora viewing in Europe. So if you guys in Europe, you should check out the skies tomorrow night. Activity could continue through the night of December 11th, giving North Americans north of 45 latitude or 50 degrees a chance to see auroras. So it's possible. We'll cross our fingers for those that like to see northern lights. I have not seen the auroras here in Montreal for, man, last time I've seen aurora borealis in Montreal was probably somewhere in the 2000, really long time ago. It's more than 10 years. It's probably 15 years from, like, 15 years at least. Um, there was I remember the last time I seen them, it was really amazing. It was a band of greenish light, very bright, that was moving through the sky. Probably has a coronal mass ejection hit the Earth at that moment. I remember because I was coming back from having a few beers, I believe, on my bicycle. And one of the places where I went through was a big park, which is pretty dark in general. It must have been, well, so it was in winter because I was on a bike. It must have been, it was, if I remember well, it was quite warm. So it was like, it was not maybe midsummer, but it was like, late spring, something like that. And as I crossed the park, I saw that in the looking north, very low on the horizon, a very, very bright green line. And I was like, wow, this is so weird. And so I stopped in the middle of the park and I started staring at it. And it was actually moving fast enough that in 20 minutes, it was at the northern horizon. Maybe 10 minutes later was over my head. And a few minutes later was like south of me. So it was like a wave going through of particles. I had seen auroras quite a few times in my life, but I never seen one that was such a concentrated, very bright band of greenish light. And I remember I called a few people saying, go outside, go check out. You're going to see some really weird stuff. There's a really bright green band. And it was extremely bright. I mean, to be so bright in a big city like I live here, because here in Montreal, seeing auroras is like an exceptional thing. It's a big city. There's a lot of light pollution. Seeing auroras is almost, they have to be like real bright. Um, I remember the best display of auroras I've ever seen was in the 90s. I don't remember exactly when. I remember it was fall and it was kind of cool outside, but it was, I mean, the sky was covered in auroras. It was amazing. And for that to be that bright in the city and covering the full sky, imagine in a dark area where it's really, really dark, how amazing that must have looked. I actually called a friend up north that I know. And I told him, you know what? You should go outside and look at the sky. And he went outside with his girlfriend. And the next day, he called me back and he said, "I want to thank you because me and my girlfriend, I've seen something that was impressive and that we will remember for the rest of our lives. It was so beautiful." And he had never actually seen auroras before. And it took a geek like me that knows, and he was impressed. And I could see it because where he lives, even though there's a little bit of light pollution, is like really, really darker than Montreal is actually. And that must have been an amazing, amazing thing. And you know what? There's a lot of people that ask questions about auroras. Today there was one about, so from what I understand, it's going to be auroras. Does that relate to, e-skip, and what's the relation between that? And there's a lot of questions, and there's a lot of things that we ourselves and about that. And the impact of auroras is kind of interesting. I have read many, many articles of different frequency ranges and really strong geomagnetic storms, aurora borealis, on shortwave. So very often when like there's a hit from a coronal mass ejection and there's a geomagnetic storm, there's a lot of absorption going on in the ionosphere. And one of the first frequencies, and some of the first frequencies that are really hit hard, are often long wave and medium wave, where the um, the signals that usually come from far away at night simply disappear, and you hear almost always only local stations. I've lived through that a few times when geomagnetic storms hit, and there was almost no AM stations at night from far away. And that's due to the fact that the ionosphere was more into absorbing all the energy of the radio waves because of the geomagnetic storm. It changes its properties. Um, but as you go higher in frequency, there's all sorts of phenomena that happens. One that I noticed many times is um, that stations that are east-west. So, for example, in North America, you listen to Radio Romania, signal comes pretty much from the east and crosses the Atlantic Ocean. These are the most hard hit signals, and often they'll fade down, even almost non-existent at some point. But north south signals are often enhanced, and I've seen that a few times where, for example, weak Brazilian stations that are often just there on the fringe of reception here. Suddenly, the east-west signals disappear, but those signals just pop up. They tend to be kind of stronger for some reason. So, when there's aurora borealis, when there's geomagnetic storming, it's not a case to turn off the radio. It's a case to tune around. Maybe some of those signals that you never hear or are very weak might actually pop up mysteriously because of the changes in propagation characteristics. I remember one of the big, well, that actually was that big aurora night that I told you that I called my friend up north, which was amazing even here in Montreal. I noticed it was happening because I was listening that night to, and I still remember very well, I was listening to Arnie Coro, the Xers Unlimited on Radio Havana, Cuba. That was on the 49 meter band. I don't remember if it was also 6,000 kilohertz at the time, but I remember it was 49 meter band. In the space of about, I'd say about 5 minutes, the signal went from super strong to almost impossible to hear. And I had seen fade outs of shortwave signals due to solar activity, but it was the first time at the time that I had noticed such a deep fade. Everything in the shortwave spectrum disappeared pretty much. Everything. I was tuning around 49 meters. It was empty or almost, the strongest signals, they were like very fluttery and it was very weird. And so I had enough knowledge at the time that I remember thinking there must be something happening with the sun and the geomagnetic field. But I had no info because that was before the internet. I couldn't go to spaceweather.com or solarham.net to check out what's happening. I had no idea because we didn't have much except WWV signal, geophysics reports at 18 minutes. So I thought something's happening with the sun. And I went outside, and that's when I noticed that the sky was filled with aurora borealis. It was just amazing. So it impacts shortwave, and it impacts also in the higher frequencies. I've seen ham operators do VHF scatter over auroras. So being able to transmit in high latitudes using VHF signals and being able to transmit and make contacts from really far away. Sorry, there's a lot of weird phenomena happening when that happens, and it's worth it to tune everywhere and see what's happening. The effects are far-reaching and are just amazing. Sorry, guys. So I'm 26 minutes behind in the chat room, so be patient, guys. So, Scott Granson, nice to have you on board from Massachusetts. Autism Radio DX in Georgia, nice to have you here. And heard a pirate station on 12:20 a.m. Cool. Eric Cottrell, nice to have you here. Experimental DRM from Brazil on 11910. 11910. I saw something about that, actually. Oh, yeah, I see it here. Yeah, definitely. Look at that. There's definitely a DRM. There's definitely a DRM signal on 11910. So that comes from Brazil. Somebody the other day, where was it? Was it on a shortwave group? Somebody the other day. So, Russia has a couple of transmissions in DRM, and I had never really, so I never received them here, and I was wondering if they were really on the air, and somebody posted a video showing one of the frequencies of the Russian DRM signal. So I guess they are working. It's kind of weird. 45 unit. Nice to have you here. 54 cool degrees in Florida. Nice to have you on board. So what else do we have? So there's no solar storms right now, just to let everybody know. K-index is at 2. It's very quiet at the time that we are doing the show right now at 0 hours UTC. Kimberly, K6YYL, nice to have you on board. Autism Radio DX is in Dalton, Georgia. Blind Picker, nice to have you here. Rob, always cool to have you on board from Connecticut, W0RAB. SoCal, nice to have you here. Says we had that alert in California yesterday. Joe Rodman, nice to have you here. Joe from Chicago. Lee Thompson, nice to have you here from Indianapolis, WA8QFE. James Johnson, nice to have you here from Jacksonville, Florida. Yeah, here too, Mike Jam. We are supposed to have our first dose. Actually, you're saying that the first people vaccinated would be this coming Monday, from what I see. Brian Penny, nice to have you here from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Fazlo, nice to have you on board, my poop. A smiley poop. Levi Nathan, nice to have you on board from Israel. Eric Cottrell says, in good news, the Canadian Health Authority has approved it. Yeah, they approved today the vaccine. So let's hope that things go fast. Raymond Martin, nice to have you here. Hope the Northern Lights tonight here in New Hampshire. It is increased. So we'll see. Fastla is asking if anyone's on FT8 on the 40-meter band. Crinden Total 4, nice to have you here from Oregon. Nice to have you here and nice to be here. Jerry DX, nice to have you on board. Aerial Imaging, nice to have you here. Check out the Taurus D1000 VHF UHF antenna. Works amazing. I've had it for years and it's only $50. I think that's what I saw the other day. I was looking at discount antennas. And I had noticed, I think it's that one. I had noticed that it was cheaper than the others. And I was wondering if it was any good, actually. Tom Bibish, nice to have you here from Ohio. Yes, Christmas is 2 weeks away, Jerry. Eric Cottrell ordered Autocrat through Walmart website. No trips to Rhode Island for a while. Yeah, until things get down, I can tell you. And what else do we have? So here I'm about to order my usual coffee here from Montreal in a place called Café Union, which has been around for since 1910 or something like that. One day I'll have to try that Autocrat coffee, Eric. Raymond Martin says, I like the grounding next to you. I like this. I have a Satellite 6000 W2CH. Very, very nice radio. It's an amazing receiver for its time. It's as old as me, 51 years of age. VT Radio, nice to have you here from Essex Junction, Vermont. Noodle Ham Operator, nice to have you here from Fort Gordon, Georgia. What else do we have? SolarFlux. Yeah, SolarFlux has it's not $8.99. Thanks, John, for the price. $8.99 in the US. I was wondering because I see only the Canadian prices here when I go on Amazon. So $8.99, you know, I mean it's cheap for all the information you've got. So K index is at 3, SolarFlux at 83. Yeah, they must have updated that because I looked, but it might not have been. Let's just I'm gonna go to solarham.net. Solarham.net is very up to date. Net up to date in the solar conditions. So right now, SolarFlux 82. So what it says here in the information is that, whoops, I clicked on the wrong thing. December the 10th is G3 geomagnetic storming, which is equivalent to a K of 7, by the way. K of 5 to 7, by the way. Mid latitude is 30% chance. High latitude, and high latitude is something like 60 degrees or 50 degrees or more. 65% chances. So kind of interesting to see here. K index is not K index is was 3 earlier. It's back down to 2. So conditions are very quiet geomagnetic wise. So right now it's far from being any having any of the geomagnetic storming. Team Lewis, nice to have you here, Tim, from Long Island. Cool. James Johnson, vodka, good cold weather drink. Yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. Keeps you happy in those times. What else do we have? Actually, I have good propagation here, SoCal, by the way, because I had 40 meters. 7195 was a Italian ham, and he was really strong. And there was on 7155, I think. There's a guy from Bulgaria. So propagation seems to be not too bad. 0 hours UT. So it doesn't seem. Let's look at the 49 meter band here, just out of curiosity. Let's make this a little smaller. So of course we have Radio Havana, Cuba on 6,000. Check that out.
Trabajo de la capacidad del hombre de desarrollar todas sus potencialidades. Por eso me gustaría.
5990 is Radio China Radio.
Uno fue la de Garrett Cole el año pasado. En esa
Revolution in Latin America.
WWCR 6115. Yes, we have 5850 is WRMI. 5800 also WRMI. 5850 I think is Radio Slovakia. Yeah. Radio Slovakia English on 5850 from WRMI.
And protected from hate crimes, hate speech, and discrimination. Slovakia should stop forcing transgender people to undergo sterilization before they.
So log 2112, nice to have you here. Jerry DX, 4 fingers of vodka. The full hand of vodka in it. Page Master, nice to have you here. KC5VOY, WA5136SWL from Oklahoma. Meow to Mr. Paul. Yeah, my sign is not on. You're right. Let me check that out. How bad am I as a host? Let me just check that out for a second. There we go. I need to just check it out here. Thank God, 2 long wires. And here we go. Da-da-da-da-da. And we are officially on the air. Here we go. Fixed. It's fixed. So VT Radio, Paul, AA1SU from Essex Junction, Vermont. 32 Fahrenheit here. It's 32 minus 0.6. And it's white outside. We had about, 2 inches of snow. So it looks a little more Christmassy tonight. Tom BXer, missed the last half of your UHF VHF show. When I signed off at the end, I noticed my name in moderator blue. Thank you. And by the way, of course, it applies here too. And moderator, here you are, Tom DXer. Moderator, officially. Nice to have you here. Joe, nice to have you here from North Carolina, KM4WRQ. Raymond Martin just ordered the Global Radio Guide on Kindle. Thanks. Also ordered the 2021 World Radio TV Handbook, hard copy edition. Cool. Nice. They'll have some nice reads. You're covering Canada coast to coast, fast load. It's coast to coast. You're Canada cost to cost. That means we have to pay to have a contact with you. Tim Lewis, nope. So the lights that I have here that are blinking actually have no noise or no noticeable noise in my shortwave radio, which is kind of nice. So that's really cool because I was sure that they were probably going to do it because they are LED lights and they're brand new from this year. But you know what? They're amazingly quiet. I'm surprised. Raymond Martin says I am WPE2FXT for many years. Cool, Ray. What else do we have? Sal Marandola, nice to have you here. Where are you located, my friend? What else do we have? Jeff, no, that's okay. So saw bright green auroras in northern Ontario, never other colors. The night that it was very bright here, back in the 90s, there was a mix of colors. I remember seeing green and red colors mixed in. But the other ones that I've seen were mostly green. And that goes with the fact with the different molecules that are actually excited by the solar wind, the particles. So green is standard because the atmosphere of the Earth is made mostly of nitrogen, and nitrogen glows green when it's excited by the solar particles. The red comes from the oxygen, and to have red, you have those particles need to penetrate deeper in the atmosphere. So it has to be a really strong solar storm or geomagnetic storm in order for the red to appear. Donald E. Smith, nice to have you here, Donald from Bermuda. Rufus Newt, 30 years ago, saw auroras every weekend. Yeah. You know, when you're in a very dark spot, auroras are not that rare in latitudes here in Canada. Even in times of low solar activity, Just, a little stronger solar wind than usual is enough to sometimes bring auroras in very, very dark skies. Blind Picker, I've seen the auroras twice, once in Alaska and once in Montana when I was sighted. It was incredible. It is a very beautiful sight, I gotta say. Hector Vasquez, nice to have you here from Los Angeles. Raymond Martin, would throwing a case of Corona beer be a coronal mass ejection? Maybe it depends on who. RJDA Dakota, nice to have you here. WA0113 SWL. SoCal says a while back a severe solar storm knocked out power in Quebec. Yeah, in 1989. In 1989, because one of the problems that is happening here, so our electricity grid in Quebec is very, very unique. It is electrical power that's created thousands of miles away. And so, and most of the big electric plants the hydroelectric plants are in the north and above or near the Arctic Circle. So what's happening is that where they are located, they are very, very susceptible to the geomagnetic storming that could happen. And because they are 1,000-mile long lines that come, the power that's giving me electricity here is probably coming from the LG complex in James Bay, which is near Hudson's Bay up north. So this is totally crazy. If you ever want to see something amazing, we were really pioneers when we built these electric plants right out of the rock in the middle of nowhere back in the 60s. And the problem is we are on the Canadian Shield. The Canadian Shield, Canada is in big, most of it is on a big rock, if you want. And the amount of earth above the rock isn't that thick. So what happens is that when there are geomagnetic storms, it induces currents in whatever it can find. One of the biggest problems that we have here is that because the soil is thin and we are on rock, the electricity doesn't have anywhere to go. So, of course, 1,000-kilometer wires are perfect for electricity to flow through. Problem is it disturbs the equilibrium. It disturbs the pattern that it needs to follow, because the electricity, our system is 60 hertz, needs to be extremely precise to be synchronized everywhere. And what happens is that in 1989, very, very strong currents were induced in the wires here in Hydro-Quebec. And it didn't take long. There was a lot of power induced. And what happened is that it actually blew up one of the huge transformers in one of the La Grande complex up north, in LG1, LG2 complex. And the currents, of course, tripped everything. And because the way the system is made, there was a compensation that tried to happen, but it actually made everything fail. And I guess for at least close to 12 hours, we didn't have electricity here. I remember that day because I went to work in the morning without electricity, not knowing if work was happening or not. And they were actually taking our names. It was a very big company I was working for. It was like 3,000 employees. And we were all in the cafeteria, so it was like overcrowded cafeteria thing. And I still remember they were taking our names because here in Quebec, we have a law, a labor law that says that if you showed up for work and for some reason work doesn't happen that day, you have 4 hours minimum pay. It's an official law. So if you went to work and because of a power outage or whatever, you can't, you are given 4 hours pay. You have to. The companies have to pay you 4 hours. You showed up, 4 hours pay. And so back then, what they did, still remember, they were going through because they were asking everybody that showed up their names so that they would give them their 4 hours pay. Because of course, anybody that did not show up would not get paid. So, anyways, that was interesting because back then there was a labor union problem here at Hydro-Quebec back then, and it's funny because the day that it happened, Hydro-Quebec kind of they gave a statement saying, well, the sun's activity and so on was there was a solar flare and so on. And I remember the union saying, yeah, they blame it on the sun, but it's because of crappy conditions and because they just don't, pay enough the people that work and blah, blah, blah. It was so funny. It's like those labor things, But now we, of course, know that, it was really the sun. They have implemented a lot of measures to counteract that today. They learned a big lesson in 1989. They learned that our system, our power grid, was very vulnerable and that we needed to do something because it would happen again if we didn't do anything about it. What they actually did, and it's pretty much that, they have two measures in place. So if, for example, we would be in a major geomagnetic storm as strong in 1989, what would happen is that, first of all, there are trips that happen. So there's like circuit breakers, if you want, that will trip the system before they get damaged in any way. So once the solar storm is gone, it's like you can, trip in back and it didn't create any damage. So it takes less time for power to come back. But they also basically put huge capacitors everywhere. And what happens is that if there would be such a storm again, the capacitors would smooth out the ripples of the geomagnetic storm electricity that were induced in the wires. It would kind of smooth them out, just like a power supply. Why do power supplies, not hum or do any problem? Because, every equipment we use pretty much uses DC or direct current. And the electricity we get is AC, alternating current. And what happens is that in our devices, we have power supplies. And what they do in the power supply is that, of course, first of all, they trip down or they reduce that power from 120 volts to 12 volts, but it's still AC, so it needs to be rectified. So they use, a rectifier bridge. But even if you use a rectifier bridge, there's still little ripples, and the current isn't stable. It ripples because of the alternating current. So what they do is they use capacitors. So that's why linear power supply have these big, huge capacitors inside them. Is because the capacitors are there to smooth out that ripple so that it's as clean as possible. And so what they did in the power grid is add huge capacitors capable of removing the ripples of any induced currents today. So anyways, I don't think we've had some strong geomagnetic storms since 1989. I'm not sure we've had some equal to that huge storm back then. But it'd be interesting to see that what's going to happen, what would happen if such a storm would be happening again today. That's for sure. What else do we have? Raymond Martin worked Aurora sometimes in the past up north on 6 meters. Yeah, the VHF has some interesting Aurora scatter effects too. VT Radio says Aurora on SSB on 10 and 6 meters sound like people whispering. CW sounds like it's underwater. Yeah, there's there's that kind of that wobbly way of transmitting. Same thing when if you ever listen to a signal from Asia here in North America, a lot of the times the signals go through the North Pole. And because it wobbles very, very, very fast in its propagation. That's because it crosses the auroral zone. And even when conditions are quiet, there's always a little bit of activity because the Earth is a giant magnet. So any solar wind is actually sucked in through the south and north poles of the Earth. Rick Sutter, nice to have you here from Milwaukee, Rick. Garrett, nice to have you here. Yesterday got the RSP1A for my 66th birthday. 2 weeks ago, I got my MLA30 Plus. Fine reception today. Enjoy your broadcast. Greetings from the Netherlands. Cool. G3ZEN. Nice to have you here, and a really nice setup there. RSP1A, MLA30. Can't get any better than that. Come on. Dan V, nice to have you here from Ohio. Says, goddamn clouds here, maybe clear out later. See the auroras. Yeah, but right now it's quiet, so don't go rushing and searching for auroras because they're real. Right now there's nothing there. PageMaster has a drum kit came in today. Now to make signal noise. Raymond Martin received the RM with a program for it on shortwave in the early 2000s from Radio Netherlands. Yep. Let's hope that 2021 is going to be better and less crappy. Others out of crafters just finished putting a coat of WD-40 on my Wonder Kent horn speaker. Love the aroma of WD-40. It does have a very distinct aroma, I can tell you that. HDAM FMDX, many early years, a geomagnetic storm was in progress, and I turned to the 6 meter ham band. Raspy sounds was just mind-blowing. Age 80, Kentucky. Wow. Yeah, there's so much unusual ways of propagation and things happening. It's just crazy. Ariel Imaging says, yes, the D1000 is very much, I lost it. I hate it when that happens. It's very much recommended. Like I said, I've had it for a couple of years. Excellent. Very good build quality. It's $50, but it's just as good as the more expensive discounts. Cool. I'm going to check that out. Maybe it's a Christmas gift. I'm going to check it out. Raymond Martin just picked up recently an Ethon E1 XM. New in box. Works well. Cool. Should be. It's a pretty good radio. Pretty nice radio. Blind picker. Getting chilly in Connecticut. 24 Fahrenheit. No snow. So 34. Kind of same temperature. Eric Cottrell, the Taurus D1000 does not have the 6 meter whip on top, so reception below 100 megahertz down compared on top. So reception below 100 megahertz maybe down compared to the ICOM and others. Yeah, the one I was looking at, and it is a Taurus also, but it's not a D1000 that I've seen. It's another model that had the whip on top of it. So anyways, I want to have something interesting. I was almost tempted. I mean, it's expensive, but I was almost tempted by a Diamond brand discount that is rated 25 megahertz all the way up to 2000 megahertz with transmit capabilities on the amateur bands of 2 meters, 70 centimeters, and even the ones like on top, the 900 megahertz band and the one on 1240 megahertz. I was a little tempted. It's a little expensive. It's like $200, but I was like, if I have to buy just one, maybe I should buy that one also. And it has the whip on top. It seems to be good quality. I don't know what to do. Actually, maybe I should buy that, but because I think the Taurus also is rated for transmit, but I need to check it out really, really well. Randy, Riverside, California. Nice to have you here. True Hunter, AORDV1 live. Cool. Michael W., nice to have you here. Erica Trell, I take that back as I was looking at the picture and did not see the 55. So that's the one I've seen, because there was a whip on the one that I've seen, but I don't remember the number, if it was a D1000, because I did see the Taurus. I did see it was cheap, and I was really wondering if it worked well. So it has a 55-inch vertical element. Huh. That is an interesting. What should I do? Do I buy that one? I mean, it's cheap. It would be a nice test also, and made a nice review on the VHF UHF channel. And if I'm not happy, I can buy the diamond. Why not? James Johnson, hearing other languages makes me wish I took time to learn more than just English. That is an interesting comment, because as I listened to shortwave from when I was young, I totally understood how powerful speaking and understanding another language than my native language was. So, here it's always a battle. Here in the province of Quebec, there's a kind of a language battle, really battle, if you want. And I mean, my native language is French. I did not speak English until about the age of, I don't know, 6, 7 years old, because I was playing with the next door neighbor, and I learned English there. And English was a big, big part of my life, pretty much, as French is, because in Quebec, French is the main language. And one thing that I understood immediately when I got my shortwave radio was how wonderful it is to know more than one language, because I could listen to English and French transmissions. It was giving me more signals to listen to. It is still true to this day, because sometimes it's easy to forget. I am past the brain barrier of the language. So, when you start learning a language, you have to think about it when you actually hear it. And then your brain kind of translates. For me, English and French are at the same level. That means that my brain is wired to just understand it. It's the way it is. So it's easy to forget that you're on one language rather than another. And at some point, what happens is that you will listen to a signal and you almost forget that what you're listening to is not English. And I realized that one day because somebody told me, "Hey, you lucky." And I said, "What? Why?" "You posted 4 stations you heard in the last hour, 2 English, 2 French. You had the choice of 4 transmissions at the same time because you know French also, where I am stuck with just the 2 that you mentioned and nothing else." And I tend to forget when I tell everybody there's a lot on shortwave. I tend to forget that I have to say, in an afternoon of listening of shortwave, I might be jumping in French, English, depending on what I have to listen to. So yes, learning languages is amazing for that. I personally would like to know Spanish because there's a lot of Spanish transmissions that could be interesting to listen to. I think it would add to, I should take the time to kind of learn Spanish. I think the more languages you understand, the more shortwave is interesting because there's a lot out there. Jeff Barry, nice to have you here from Ontario. Ancient Smith, do you think modern radios are a lot better than radios of 10 years ago? A lot is a big word. I would not say a lot. The best of the past was very close to what we have today. I think there's a slight edge on the modern radios that's there. But honestly, a good radio from 30 years ago that's well maintained is probably very close, if not as good as a modern radio today. The technologies used inside it has changed a bit. I mean, we went from, what makes radios so big and clunky from like 30, 40 years ago is how different electronics is processed today. In 1980, a desktop radio had mainly a gazillion transistors and capacitors, and it's like there were a lot of parts on the circuit board. What happened over time is that more and more integrated circuits included what was needed to do a certain part of the board. So what happened is that radios became a little smaller because instead of having 800 transistors to do something, you had an integrated circuit that did that one part of that circuit and immediately removed 150 transistors and capacitors and whatever. So the use of ICs really made receivers smaller because you needed less parts around it to actually work. Look at today's small portables. It would not, imagine an XH data D808. As simple as that. A radio like that in 1980. So let's remove the DSP part of it because in 1980 that would not have been possible really with the technology we had. That silicon integrated chip that a lot of radios use? That would have been a huge circuit board full of transistors, capacitors, and all you want. And the radio would have been huge because it needed space for that circuit board. The radios are the size of the circuit board they use today. So in 1975, a high-end transistor portable was big because you needed a lot of space for all the parts to be on the board. In 2020, the same exact circuit will be so small and, add surface mount components that back in 1975, there was no surface mount, or I don't know what years the surface mount started being popular. It was like somewhere in, I guess in the 80s. All of that made everything smaller suddenly. But integrated circuits that do a lot of things are making everything small today also. I mean, that company, Silicon Integrated, that made that chip, that's a winner chip. I mean, they knew what they were doing. They came to market with, hey, let's do a chip that has a full-blown radio in it. And whatever you do with it, then, you had parts around it to make it better or not. It's pretty crazy. Canadian Radio TV guy. Nice to have you on board. Pretty strong CFRX on 6070. Do I see it here? 6070. It's barely visible on my display. At this time of night here, it's not possible. But when I wake up in the morning, it's one of the first stations I tune. I tune 6070 and listen to CFRX a little bit. Eric Cottrell, although you can transmit on 6 meters like you can on the Icon Discount. Randall Klontz, nice to have you here from Northeast Illinois. Pretty cool to have you on board. I don't see how many people are watching. Yeah, 139. That's not bad for a Wednesday evening show. So I'm going to try to catch up. I'm 30 minutes behind. So if I haven't said hello, yes, hello yet, I'm coming to it. I'm coming to it, guys. David, KJ4CMY, Central Georgia. Nice to have you here. True Hunters. Nice to have you here. Keel. And Nick Mayakovsky. Nice to have you on board. Earliest sunset tonight for those of us 45 North. Really? It's tonight? We're the 9th? Because I know that, they kind of lingers for a certain time, many days before it actually starts changing. So, what else do we have? Chastank, nice to have you here. Marvin Motts, love the blinking lights and snow. Cool. Canadian Radio TV guy, my SDR play is on the ML830 loop on my balcony out front. Nick Mayakovsky, coast to coast to coast, AM. Our JDA Dakota was sunny and beautiful outside today. Went outside to listen and heard a lot. Conditions are good. Cool. Mark Elford, nice to have you here. Hope the solar flux can maintain itself a little high enough because there's a 10-meter contest this weekend. That'd be interesting to listen to on 10 meters. Coast to coast shortwave. Yeah, that's the best. Northern Dawn, nice to have you here. Trying to hit the local UHF repeater from inside my office, working just about. Marvin Moss, best regards from the Japan Islands. Come here for isolated island shortwave expedition. I will set you up with a canoe, tent, and antennas. We got to work that out. That sounds like heaven. What else do we have? William Helms in Florida, nice to have you here. Andy Tobin, nice to have you on board. Rob, nice to have you here from Phoenix, Arizona. Free Saxon, nice to have you on board. Okay, David KJ4CMY says, why do power supplies hum? They don't know the words. John McClure, nice to have you on board, my friend. Let's try to get down. Yep, March 13th, 1989. It was pretty much all the province of Quebec was blackout. Raymond Martin says, we had a big blackout in Northeast U.S. happening from Niagara Falls, New York, 55 years ago in November 65. I went on the air with my Gonset 3 mobile transceiver from 1977, from 1957 Chevrolet with a beam. Cool. Larry Cordy, nice to have you here from New York. Yeah, Raymond Martin, absolutely. Whiskey Delta 40. What's your call? WD-40. Come on. Don't you hate that? It comes to mind. I was listening to a ham station this weekend using all sorts of weird phonetics. He was not using the official phonetics, and he was talking real fast. It was like, what the hell is that call? I knew he was from some other place. He was not from US or anything. It was like, what are you saying? What the hell's that call? And it was like, you listen in for like 20 minutes and it drives you nuts. It was like, can you talk slower and use the real phonetics instead of, wonderful Delta 9, whatever, it's like, hey, come on, there's an official phonetics, to use in amateur radio, please, and talk slower, because now it sounds like don't even got a contest. What? All I heard was contest. Desmond Crean, nice to have you on board from Ireland. Steve, nice to have you here from Australia. The construction of the diamonds are great. Just bought a new D130. Works fantastic. Yeah, that's also the other part is the quality, because here it's going to be outside and the rain, sleet, freezing rain, winds, snowstorms, everything. That also is kind of something to think about. Raymond Martin, remember having been around New York City years ago, having a discovery and some problems with various intermodulating signals. Aerial Imaging says there's no downside to the Taurus. When you get it in your hands, you'll see. If this one ever gets ruined for some reason, I'm going to just buy it again. That's the other thing. It's like the MLA 30. When somebody says, well, I'm not sure I want to spend $40, I'm like, yeah. And he starts saying, well, I might buy a Wellbrook or okay, well, you're going to spend $400 on an antenna. Even if you buy an MLA 30 every year, you're going to have it for 10 years. It's like, yeah, no, come on. It's like, because one of the first comments I had was, oh, that's cheap Chinese crap. It's not going to last a year. Well, I have a W6LVP loop that's 500 Canadian dollars here. I can tell you one thing. I'll go through. Sorry, guys. I'll go through a lot of MLA 30s before I have the same price spent. And by the way, my MLA 30 is spending its second winter outside. Sorry, guys. It's not COVID. Don't worry. It's more like cat allergy. So I'm going to check it out to Aerial Imaging, honestly. What else do we have? Canadian Radio TV guy, just check the band stuff moving all over. Cool. Raymond Martin, yes, we had July 1977 blackout. Yeah, I remember reading about that 1977 blackout somewhere. What else do we have? Joe, better filtering and memory storage. Keegan, nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas. And what else do we have? Joe says, I want a radio that's like a DVR, so when I miss parts of a program, I can back up or need to step away for a second, can pause the program. Brian Vandenheimer, nice to have you here. My 1940s RCA CR91A is an amazing radio, but it weighs 109 pounds. Yeah. It's like here, that Grundig from 1969 right here. It's not up to par to the modern radios I have, including some of the good portables. But it is not that far. If I had that instead, so an example, I started in 1982 with a realistic DX100. If I had that instead, I would have had a better time on shortwave than with the realistic DX100 in 1982, because that is a million times better. It's also a million times more expensive, but this thing is truly amazing. If I'd be stuck on a desert island and have a way to power this, this would still make a great shortwave radio that I can listen to pretty much everything. Aerial Imaging says, I use exclusively radios that are over 20 years old. A Drake R8, Sony 2010, Panasonic RFB45. If there's radios that work better than these, I'd be surprised. Drake R8 is amazing. They are top-notch radios. Sony 2010 is known to be a great portable. Panasonic RFB45. I would say if there's one radio that you might have a portable that beats one radio that you just mentioned, Modern portable might be the Panasonic RFB45. But for the rest, the Drake R8 and Sony 2010, I think you got top-notch receivers. And even that Panasonic RFB45 is a great radio anyways. And it'd be fun to test that with like modern portables. That'd be a fun part. Maybe one of the things that'd be fun on the channel in 2021, you know what, is try to purchase at a decent price older shortwave portables and compare them with modern shortwave portables and see how they perform. That could be kind of cool. Chess Tank says, I got out of shortwave for about 10 to 12 years, getting feet wet again, and was surprised at how small a portable is today. There's a good side and a bad side. And I'm the kind of guy that likes a big radio. So when you look at today's portables, they are absolutely amazing and fantastic. But I do miss the big radio. I mean, the Texan PL990X, it's kind of in the middle. I kind of accept because it's a little bigger, but still, I'm still a fan of big radios. Hey, Bobby Burgess. Raymond Martin, yes, you guys had a blackout back then, absolutely, in 2003. And you know why I know? Because there's a story that goes with that. So in 2000, I think it's 2003, 2004, somewhere there, I was at I had a road trip with friends. And we went up to Lac Saint Jean. We went to, we for a week we were going everywhere in Quebec, and it was an interesting. We were four guys, and it was an interesting moment. And when we ended our Quebec tour, we were in Quebec City, and we stayed in Quebec City for 2 days. And I remember we were at a bar in Quebec City, and I remember looking at the TV, and they were saying there was a big power outage that affected like New York, Ontario, state of New York, province of Ontario. It was like a really big thing, and it was probably that blackout. And I remember reading later on that the only reason Quebec didn't actually go into a blackout that day is because the interconnections between Quebec and the rest are different. And so it prevented our power grid from actually collapsing with all the rest of it. So it was kind of interesting. But I remember that because I remember that power outage, that blackout was a pretty big one too. I mean, many states in the Northeast, plus I remember it was like the province Ontario was also affected back then. Jamie Davis, nice to have you here from Florida. Yingli, nice to have you on board. VE3TYA is in the house. RJD Dakota, used my GP5 today and I'm still amazed at the size and quality of this radio. It's surprising. It's really surprising when we look at the little, if that thing had a keyboard, it'd be in my top favorite radios even today. Really even today. I can tell you that. Brian Weitenheimer says, got his license. He's now VA7 VEB. Welcome aboard, Victor Alpha 7, Victor Echo Bravo. I'm not a ham, and I don't use that weird nonsense that some hams use. All right, contest. Raymond Martin has a tape recording of Radio Canada reviewing the new Sony ICF 2001 in 1980. Oh, wow. Rebel Foxy, nice to have you here. Carlos Aguila, nice to have you on board. Hey, we never overnap. We're okay. It's always okay. What else do we have? PageMaster. Great conjunction on December 21st, 2020. Yep. It was a nice year for anybody with a telescope. It was a nice year because all the planets were evening planets, almost all visible at some point in one evening. Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. We even had Venus at the beginning of the year. Pretty cool. Yes, Desmond Green, big hello. Nice to have you here. Renan Martin says, there was back in the 1980s when I was traveling in Canada, CKO radio with news from coast to coast. ADZ62, nice to have you here. Don from Nova Scotia, Canada. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Raymond Martin, my phonetics are we're two cooked hams as a joke. Joseph Ickenbaum, nice to have you here from California, USA. Thomas Halson, nice to have you on board looking at plans for my Faraday box. Dr. Sisop, 27555 active, where he is. Yogi May, nice to have you here, Yogi. WF7I Homebrew, nice to have you on board. Just downloaded the global radio guide you recommended. Looking forward to it. You're going to be, it's really nice. It has a nice listing by frequency. It's really, really worth it. I mean, for the price it is, come on, it's really totally worth it. I mean, look at all the work that goes into that thing. I mean, come on, for the price that it is, it's totally worth it. Jim, nice to have you here from Rhode Island. Derek Christie, bonsoir. Nice to have you here. VA3GMB in Ontario. Well, Dr. Sisop has WWV on 25 megahertz S2. Wow. I'm going to try it, but I don't think it's going to make it. 25,000. Big. Whoops. Not 20. Let's do 25,000. Anything here? Nope. Nothing on 25. Anything on 20? Nothing on 20. 15? Nothing on 15 or barely there. If it's there, something there. What about 10? 10. Yeah, it's kind of, yeah. Nope. 5? Weak, but there on 5. And this is 2.5. It is kind of audible on 2.5. Oh, Canadian weather on 2598. 2598 upper sideband. Look at that, guys.
In northeast road. Great is the land that I the south road to the sea. Get me water. South road to the coast.
2598 is, how about at this time? 2598. Just check because there's multiple, it's kind of hard to follow the Canadian weather stations because there's a lot of different places they are broadcasting from. So 2598. Of course, I cannot get access to EIBI space right now. What do we have? So 2598, Canadian Coast Guard. PageMaster heard on his portable scanner 137.100 NOAA 19 weather satellite and started decoding that signal. That happened after the official VHF UHF channel the past weekend.
This is Rapid Rocket God Radio. Good.
Oh, it seems that EIBI Space.de has a problem tonight. Kind of cool. Joseph Hickenbaum, comparing older and newer portables would be great. Yeah, it would be fun. The biggest problem is getting old portables and old radios at a decent price. For some reason, everybody thinks that a Panasonic radio from 1985 is like gold, when in reality it's just an old radio. So getting them at a decent price is a tough one. Tim in Texas. Hey, from Texas. I can get a St. Gian 909X lightly used for $188, or should I wait for the new model next year? It's a hard question to answer. As long as nobody has one in his hands that we can test the next one next year, it's very difficult to answer that question if you are wanting to buy a 909X. I think the St. Gian 909X is overpriced. Personal opinion. I don't know. $188, slightly used. If it's working great, it's up to you. I don't know what to say to that, actually. Chaz Tank, I agree about big radios. Yeah, we want big radios. VT radio, I'm back running an errand to the store, shovel the snow from the walkway. Oh, man. Can you read a TV guy? So, yeah, the blackout of 2003. Absolutely. RJD Dakota. My favorite big radio is the RF 1165 by Panasonic, aka Tech 1000. I had two Panasonics. So in portables, I had two Panasonics in my life. I had the Panasonic RF B300, and I had the Panasonic RF 28. Was it 28? Let me just check it out here. It's so easy to lose track of whatever model. Images, Panasonic. Yeah, Panasonic RF 2800. So if you guys want to check that out, the Panasonic RF B300 and Panasonic RF 2800. I had both of them. They were really nice radios. I am so sad that I actually departed from them because of, come on. You know what happens in life is you have these moments where it's like, yeah, well, $50 would be great right now. And I remember I sold the RF 2800, $75. And I'm thinking today about it, and I'm like, come on. You could have kept that. It would have been such a nice radio in your collection. The RFB 300 also, which was very surprising. I don't know why. Sometimes you depart from radios and you're like, what the hell did I do? Why the hell did I do that? Honestly, pretty crazy. What else do we have? Raymond Martin been to Robertval on Lac Saint-Jean up above Quebec City in 1959. Well, we did all of that. We went around Lac Saint-Jean pretty much at that time. Dr. Sisop, good news. DAB Plus Radio will be doing trial in 2021 in Mexico, Jamaica, Aruba, Turks and Caicos, and Barbados. Huh, kind of interesting. You have Joe Cool, no more shortwave portables from Japan, many from China. Anyone know of models being made in Korea or other places? I mean, that's a non-question. You know what? Because the Chinese-made Texans and the Chinese-made radios are great. And I think having a discussion of where a radio is made today is a non-question. I don't mind buying a radio from China. You know, we can have our positives, our negatives of all of this politics and the way things and companies and the way countries work. Yeah, I understand. I mean, you know, China is not the best play in the world. But, you know, we can say that of a lot of other countries that I will not mention. And I think it's time to just understand one thing. Their world's manufacturing is now made in China. That's where everything is done. And when I see somebody say, well, I won't buy a radio in China, made in China. So you won't buy any radios anymore because 99% is done there. And that's the way it is. And you got to live with it. And you got to stop whining. You got to stop thinking that, you know, yeah, we're going to have our production back in North America. No, it's never going to happen. Live with the times. There are other things and there are so many other ways that, you know, we shine in the US and Canada. Just let them do their electronics. Let's buy it at a cheap price because that's the way it works. I'm not saying it's the best thing in the world, but it's the way it is. And that we don't have a voice against that. Because tomorrow morning, millions of people are going to buy Chinese stuff. We are in that world now. Let's move on and stop thinking that I'm going to stop buying stuff from whatever country, unless it's really horrible. You know, I believe in fairness of employees, fairness in the way that things are done. But I also am very down to earth in understanding, look, you think I'm going to change anything about that in the next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? No one will change that ever. It's where everything's going. And that's it. For the rest, some of the best damn radios out there are made in China right now. And that's the way it is. Matt, no, it's the only difference between the Victor Alpha and the Victor Echo in Canada is because they ran out of Victor Echo and they had to do Victor Alpha because there were too many hams for the Victor Echo. But there's no difference in licensing. It's really more of a question of whatever's available in call signs. It's like the local phone numbers. You know, they run out of numbers in a certain area code. I mean, here in Montreal, we have 2 area codes right now, which is 514 and 438. We're going to have a new one, which I don't remember. It's like 2 something, but it's like, wow. Aerial imaging. How are the guys on 160 meters able to talk to each other in full Vox? These guys on 3630 sound like they're on a phone call with each other. That's pretty much what it is. Dr. Sisop, CHU check. At this time, the only frequency I expect would be 3330. And even that is very weak. Look at that. Forget it. CHU is a no-no tonight here. In wintertime, it's 3330 will be here pretty much all day long. But in the wintertime, it skips over me. That's for sure. Brian Weitenheimer says, tiny bit of skip on 11 meters today. Couple of contacts on with Ontario and New York. Cool. VTA Radio picking up WWV on 2.5 and 5, and Canadian Weather on 2598 in Vermont. Cool. Mike Taunton, nice to have you here. WC0L from Arizona. Raymond Martin says, I pick up CHU from, I believe, Ottawa nicely on 3330. I've picked up Gander Aviation Weather in the 8 megahertz range. Cool. What else do we have? Let's go down. Marvin Moss got a Panasonic RFB65. Keegan, his Grundig S450 DLX Field Radio and Ethon Grundig Edition Field BT with RDS and FM are big radios. Yeah, they are big radios. That we got to say. They are really big radios. Michael says, sitting across from me is a National Panasonic DR49, which I use almost every day. These are really nice. Really nice. Joseph Ickenbaum, band conditions here in my house in California have seemed pretty poor in the past few days. Not sure if it's all the new Christmas lights or if there's actually bad conditions. Conditions are pretty good, but there's higher noise usually in the wintertime for sure. Raymond Martin, have you heard anything about the Texan H501? I imported one from China around upper $300 US, but the manual is mostly Chinese. Yeah, the Texan H501 is still Chinese market only. Maybe in 2021 we'll see them. I've read a interesting report on the H501. It seems to be, in its basic form, a Texan PL990X, in which they've added a second speaker for stereo when you're on FM. So I'm not gonna put my hand in the fire for that, but what I think it's that a Texan PL990X in a form factor that lets it be kind of a stereo boombox, if you want, when listening to FM radio. RJD Dakota, RF 2800 is a one big radio. I had one of those. Oh yeah, it was big and it was kind of heavy for a transistor portable too. Shane Ramos, congratulations on taking your ham license exam this Saturday. I bet you're gonna kill that exam. You're gonna be okay. Mike Thornton, I've sold an RF 2800. Also been kicking myself ever since. I'm kicking myself every day. I can't believe I departed from that radio. I cannot believe, 3 radios. Scanner radios, I have no regret really, because I was moving on, and I can't say I have a regret of a scanner portable, but I have a regret of the shortwave portables and tabletop. 3 radios I should never have sold. My Realistic DX302 tabletop, I should never have departed from that. I sold it for like $85. The Panasonic RF2800, I should never have departed from that. And the Panasonic RFB300 is so it's kind of a thing of circumstance. The Panasonic RFB300 I didn't sell, but it was owned by my dad's radio. And when my mom and my dad divorced, my dad had no TV and no radios. I'm not kidding. No TV, no radios. And I was thinking, okay. So I got the Panasonic RFB300. That's my dad's radio. So I took the radio and I brought it back to my dad and I said, well, you'll have a radio. It's your radio. The worst part is when I brought it back, he made a new girlfriend, and he moved out of Montreal. And he didn't pay his bills. So one day, somebody came and they took everything. The Panasonic RFB300 was, of course, in the let's take everything. And when that happened, I thought, man, I should have kept it. If I had known that 2 months later, it would have been just, scooped up by whatever, I should have kept the radio. I regret that for that reason. I wanted to be good, and I wanted to it's your radio and you've got nothing, so let's, I'm going to bring your radio back. But in reality, when I saw that, it was like, yeah, I should have kept it. Dmitry Lavrinovich, nice to have you on board from Minnesota. Archer's Crafter's Kitchen, Panasonic RF 2200 will be buried with me. Christmas gift from parents in 1977. My first proper shortwave radio. There are things like that touch our soul. And I was looking at my Commodore 128 computer that I've got here. And Christmas is coming up. I had that Commodore 128 in 1985 as a Christmas gift from my dad. And I later learned that he actually went to get a loan to pay for that computer for me. And we're coming at Christmas time, so there are a few things that you realize when you get, I think everybody, all of us, we have a few things, or one thing in particular, that when we get at Christmas time that we think of in the past of how it was. And I'm looking at it right now, and I remember there's two interesting memories of that. Is when I got that as a Christmas gift in 1985. It was expensive. In 1985, a $600 computer was a lot of money. Was a lot of money. It's still kind of a lot of money today, but it's not as bad, but it's still a lot of money. So I remember that, and I remember a couple of years later, there's one of the things, and today I'm still in that on PC even. There's a website called poet.net, which is POEUT.net. If you have a PC and you're kind of fan of demos or demonstrations of graphical stuff in music, it's still going on today. There are groups that make demos, and it's like I find it really cool to watch those. The Commodore computer was the king of the demos of back then, and one of them for Christmas was a drunk Santa that goes in the chimney, puts presents in, puts presents, and then drinks like whiskey or something off the table, and he's like drunk to go back up and fly away with the elves, the reindeer. Sorry, and that was the second part, because my mom, when I showed her that the first time, she started laughing. She's like, "Oh, that's so funny." And every year my mom would ask me, "Oh, on that computer, you have that Christmas thing with the drunk Santa. Can you let it play on the screen so I can see it?" And every year she would laugh. And it's funny because it's something. So these are two things that when I look at the Commodore 128 and think of the past, two things that just come to mind, which is kind of interesting. But, there's radios, there's all sorts of things that we think in the past. I still remember my Realistic DX100. These are tough to get away from, honestly, because they have a meaning. It's not just hardware. It's not being attached to a radio. It's being attached to our radio and some moment in time with people we love. It's a very different thing. Aerial imaging. Here's my secret. I buy my radios broken. I got the Drake for $70, not working. Sony 2010 20 for blown FET. Yeah. That's a way of getting cheap radios. Absolutely, that's for sure. ADZ62, my running satellite 750 had a short after a year, so I was disappointed with it. Now I'm using an old Sony ICF 5900W. I miss presets in digital display. Yeah, digital display is a big thing in a radio. That's for sure. That's for sure. That's for sure. And no digital display is a tough one. I still remember dreaming of a radio with a digital readout to punch in the frequencies, or at least tune a precise frequency when I had the DX100. Oh man, thank God. Thank God. Thank God. For interval signals. All right, JD Dakota, don't care where it's made as long as it has quality to it, but I really do wish we build it ourselves. I mean, that is a wish that a lot of people want, but you know what? It's not necessarily a good wish, because almost everything that was done back then by ourselves was done at cheap labor. That's why it was done here. Do you want to have cheap labor here in North America? No, we don't. We want to have good jobs. We want to have really high paid jobs. Let the others do it at their cheap labor. Let's us have jobs at a good, decent living. That's all. Because we won't buy stuff made here with the prices. You know, a Texan PL990X made in US or Canada would cost $1,000. I would not have one, and I would not buy one. That's the way it is. So, we got to choose. What else do we have? Yeah, Keegan. Thank you for finding the area code. So it's 263. 263. Joe as 3330 in Virginia. JJ, nice to have you here. Falstroth. I heard the Réseau HF du Québec on multiple European Kiwi SDRs. Some 80-meter propagation is there, but local is bad. Yeah, you're on 3780. 3780. That's Réseau HF du Québec is the frequency for that. The Mark P. First-time watcher, just sub because of your speech about China. You're correct. Move on. W2COD. Nice to have you here. Yeah, I mean, we do other things. We're at another place. China is where it is. China is the manufacturer of every junk we buy in the world. That's it. We can't. I'm not the kind of guy that likes to stay put or think of, let's bring back whatever. It's like, no, let it go. Let's move in a new direction and see what we are capable of. That's the best thing. Hey, Shitty Pyro 90. Nice to have you here. Better late than ever. Absolutely. VT Radio, CHU and 3330 coming in nicely. Is that a frequency you tried? Yeah, I did try 3330, but you're a little further away from CHU than I am. It makes a big difference sometimes. Just, 50, 100, 150 miles makes a very big difference sometimes. Dilip Bapat. Great session. What you said is correct. 99% of electronics comes from China with affordable price. Absolutely. That's the way it is. Nice to have you here from India. Victor Uniform 3. United Echo Lima. Nice to have you here. G. Lee. Nice to have you here from Fresno, California. WA6120SWL. Rufus Newt says, my housemate just walked by, got a head shake. Is it a bad thing to have 3 radios on? It's not a bad thing. You just look weird. But you know what? Embrace that weirdness and be happy. Tom DX there, really regret selling my Japan radio NRD 515. Fantastic. Oh man, that I would regret also. Oh man. We should be able to go back, and if we could go back in time and come back here, man, I'd have some stuff in there. I can tell you that was from the past. Shady Prior 9010 meters was hopping today with my location. Heard the usual suspects on 6 and 17. Raymond Martin, I had similar thoughts about the Texan H501 being about the same as the mono speaker 909. It is operating features. So maybe 909 manual in English would be helpful. The 990, you mean? Yeah, it could. Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised. You know what? If it's like the Texan PL330, very small portable, a lot of the features that the 990X has, the key presses and the way to do it, are similar. So take the 990 manual, and I can bet you that a lot of the settings and a lot of the stuff applies to that H501. I wouldn't be surprised. Michael says, my dad passed away 2 years ago, and I acquired my National Panasonic DR49 from his stuff. It's something I will never sell. Yeah, I totally understand. Bernie Dodge, I find myself buying the radios of my youth again. Ollie Crafters S41G, National NC60, Lafayette HA50, walkie-talkies. Cool. Chastang, my ex-wife gave my radio gear to Goodwill. I was able to retrieve my military common equipment, but they had sold the rest. Oh, yeah, I can bet. I can bet. Oh, man. Dmitry Larinovich says, I tested both Radio Grandig 800 and Drake R8, received almost the same. Yogi May said, you should build a wooden box for your 880 990X and pretend it's a big radio. Yeah, and put, you know what? I should like take, I got some like a bag of tubes here. I should just, like build a big box and put glowing tubes on top and saying, this is my shortwave radio from 1935. That it's great. And inside the box is the Texan PL990X. Man. RJ Dakota, RF 2200 has a great medium wave band and antenna. RJ Dakota, Silicon Valley still manufactures a great portion of electronic components. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, well, there's a lot of countries around the world that do a lot of stuff. That's for sure. Raymond Martin misses the CBC Northern Service. I know the Inuit up there in Nunavut speak Inuktitut. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Malaysia. Remember, guys, in the 80s, how many stuff that we would buy electronic that was made in Taiwan? You remember that? Taiwan was like the big thing. I remember in the 80s, a lot of stuff I purchased was made in Taiwan. That's where everything was made at that time. So, So, hey, I'm going to ask you guys about something. How about we get a little nostalgic? I have this left. I'll have to say I'm a little drunk because I had one of those before the show too. But, I'm having fun. So here's what I'm proposing. So I don't really want to tune shortwave tonight, but I do want to have recordings of the past of shortwave. How about that? Of anything. And we'll have little bits here and there of different stations from the past. And continue the show, continue talking about what we love. And I'll refill this glass. So I want to have a thumbs up or a yes to encourage me continue the show with that type of program. How about it? You guys are in for it? Gonna have fun with that? Keegan says, my dad, W9JEF, has a Zenith Transoceanic radio from 1951. These are beautiful radios. Tina Smith, my boyfriend wants to know about antenna. He went to farm store, got some hot wire. He says the roof is 20 tall. You know, wire is wire. Just put the wire as long as you can outside and have fun. That's pretty much what it is. Dr. Sissa, before China, radio was made in Germany, Japan, Taiwan, Korea, Malaysia, Singapore. Malaysia was often seen, absolutely. Singapore was one I've seen very often. You know, it moves around. It just moves around. Absolutely. Derek Christie says, yes, sir. Rufus says, go for it. So we're going to have a little fun and go back in time. I got we're close to Christmas. We're going to have a little Radio Canada International listeners corner from Christmas of 1987. If you guys are interested in checking it out, we'll listen a little bit of that. We will check out different things. So I'm going to fill this. And as we fill this, I will actually, let's check it out here. So for a second here, I'm going to put so let's go to a little broadcast of Radio Peking from 1968. I was not born at that time. And while I go and fill up my drink. That's very military. So I'm back in a few minutes.
This is Radio Peking.
This is Radio Peking.
That is Radio Peking.
This is Radio Peking. is Radio PT. Colleagues and friends, we begin our program with a quotation from Chairman Mao Zedong. Our great leader, Chairman Mao, has said, "Make trouble, fail, make trouble again, all again, till we're doomed." That is the logic of the imperialists and all reactionaries the world over in dealing with the people's cause. And they will never go against this logic. This passage is quoted from a commentary Chairman Mao Zedong wrote for the Xinhua News Agency in 1949 on the U.S. State Department's white paper of Sino-U.S. relations. We now repeat the quotation. Make trouble, fail, make trouble again, fail again till they're doomed. That is the logic of the imperialists and all reactionaries the world over in dealing with the people's cause. And they will never go against this logic. You are listening to Radio 210. In this transmission beamed to North America,
It's transmission beamed to North America.
you will also hear the second installment of a dispatch entitled China's Red Guard Movement Shakes the Whole World. Finally, our special series, Fighting Vietnam, with a report on how the Army and people in North Vietnam have hit hard at the U.S. Air Marauders. Here are the headlines in today's news. The Lanzhou Municipal Intermediate People's Court has sentenced the British spy, George Watt, to 3 years imprisonment. The 13 People's Daily on Saturday carried an article by its commentator.
Man, that sounds so harsh, communist, kind of crazy. So welcome. I didn't have any cranberry juice anymore, so I took orange juice now. So cheers, everybody. Bobby Burgess says it's fine with me. Matt says, thumbs up. Why not? Bernie Dodge. Yes, name it that interval signal. Oh, that'd be nice. Name that interval signal. All right, JD Dakota. Older realistic radios were made in South Korea. Yep. There were some in South Korea and some in Taiwan. I think the realistic DX100 says made in Taiwan, if I'm not mistaken. What else do we have? Christmas music on 5085 from WTWW. Aerial imaging. During the times of Soviet Union, they made all sorts of products domestically that were never exported. You know what? When I remember when my sister was a ham operator in the 80s, she would tell me that when she had contact with Russian stations, they would just mention, oh, we've got this homemade 6-tube transceiver. And there was they didn't have any real branded gear. They would almost all have either homemade branded from the USSR or they just made it themselves. Frank Ireland received his Texan PL990X radio and kit ordered from Anonco Sunday. Got it today. 3 days from Hong Kong to Florida. Wow. Yeah, Anonco is extremely fast. My PL990X, I think, was like 3 or 4 days too. It was really quick. Yogima says, I saw those YouTube videos about Soviet-era radios, and I just don't understand the numbers printed on it. JJ, this is so soothing to listen to. Today, it's nothing but crazy sound effects and fake laughing and horrible jokes. Yeah, you got to take it easy and just, have fun. Where did I buy my new laptop? On Amazon. It's an Asus A17 Tough Book or Tough Gaming laptop, 17-inch. It's a little expensive. I paid $1,500 for it, and it is a truly amazing device. I'm so happy, and it came with 6 months Xbox Game Pass for PC. So I can play for 6 months. I can play any darn game that's available in the Game Pass. And I actually, I'm a little guilty today because I had a lot of things to do. And I actually spent 2 hours and a half playing Forza 4 racing game. And then I played an hour of Plague, Tale of Innocence. It's like, yeah, you should work. You should stop playing and you should do videos. But it felt good. Carlos Aguila says, I went to an ODD Chinese cheap electronics store on Monday and saw a bunch of retro-looking radios. Oh, yeah, they're good at making old, fake old stuff. That is totally how they're good. Tom DX at Radio Peking sent me a copy of Maho's Little Red Book in the late 60s. This was the book of the Red Guards used to quote from. I'm sure a mail like that put me on the FBI list somewhere. Yeah. You know, imagine you received that. And one day you apply for a job. And they say, well, you got to explain this. I wonder if, if people that were like in higher jobs, like that required more security clearance, I wonder if it ever happened that somebody applied for a job and said, okay, so can you explain why you're receiving mail from Radio Moscow? I want to be surprised it maybe happened to some people. Oh, yeah, that's another thing, Yogi May. Remember one thing, even European receivers, that is an interesting thing about Europe and North America. North American branded radios almost always had megahertz first or kilohertz. Actually, megahertz was more of a thing in the 60s, 70s. But European radios often put meter bands first before the frequency. And that always kind of intrigued me is why do you guys go crazy on meter band when we go crazy on frequency? It is interesting to see the differences around the world for sure. Ari says Selena B212 was a favorite Soviet radio. I had one myself. How was it? Did you like it? Was it something interesting? Mika Delmage. Bonjour, bienvenue. I think I forgot to say hi earlier. I'm so sorry. Check my phone. If I can find it. That's not my phone. Yeah, my phone is somewhere. Oh, it's here in my back. Check my phone. Apparently, I have to check my phone. So, here goes. Okay. Cool. We're going to check that. A little something here. And let's see what it is. So let's stop that that Chinese thing playing still. Here we go. So, okay, guys, Iki Delmage in Sherwood Park, Alberta, has sent a little something and says, let us see who remembers these two. And here we go. I'm gonna download this. And let's play this audio file now.
17 days from today, we will be marking the first day of spring 1975.
How do you like that? Mrs. Daniel, Myrtle and Llewellyn A.M. Daniel of Panagasa, Chittagong in Bangladesh celebrated their wedding anniversary. Congratulations and many happy returns of that day and especially of the year. And Llewellyn also would like us to dedicate a song to his friends Mr. Ronald Lewis, Mrs. Esther Lewis, and their daughter Christine in Chittagong.
And from Georges Nombreuse, opposite Docker's Flats, Rochebois, Mauritius, the Indian Ocean.
By the way, at the beginning of his letter, you see he writes in the language that he speaks. They speak?
In Mauritius.
In Mauritius. And by the way, Georges, yes, I understood it. It's rather easy to understand, really.
Rather.
Rather? You having problems? Are you having problems?
I'm looking at it, but I don't think I'll ask you to translate it for me right now.
Would you like me to translate the song right now?
That will
Paper, lace, and Billy don't be a hero. Billy, wees geen held. Willy, Willempje, wees geen held.
Billy, don't be a hero.
Okay. That's, anybody remembers that? Anybody remembers that? This is Radio Netherlands. Radio Netherlands from 1975, sent to us by our friend Mieke Delmage, Michel Delmage. Nice to have you here. Okay, what do we have? It doesn't matter, Tina Smith. A wire outside, a long wire antenna, a wire antenna, because it's not a beverage, is whatever direction you actually position it, doesn't matter much. It's really positioning it for the least amount of noise that is important, more than anything else. So Aerial Imaging says on the Apple Podcast app, there's a podcast that consists entirely of old shortwave recordings. Favorite is an Iraqi broadcast during the time. Wow. Of the war. Pretty crazy. What else do we have? What else do we have? Yeah, that was something, the Kuwait invasion and all of that. Apparently, Radio Kuwait had a transmission going on until the end where they were asking for help. Prasad, nice to have you here from India. Late, but there. Absolutely. 5085 is WTWW. Actually, if you want to hear your songs played, you can go to WTWW.us and ask for your favorite tunes, and they will play at some time. Why is WTWW on a packed or fax frequency? That's because a lot of stations are kind of out of band. Like, there's so many stations out of band. I mean, 5130 WBCQ is not in the 60-meter band. It's out of band. There's so many stations that do that. So, they decided that's what they were choosing, and that's it. Mike Thornton, but there's also shared bands, in those areas where broadcasters and utilities also share kind of a moment. Mike Thornton says, yes, it happened to me. I had a secret clearance in one of my previous jobs in the aircraft industry. The only thing I was asked was whether or not I could talk to the USSR on my ham radio. Oh, man. Zanzibar, nice to have you here. Where are you located? I'm in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, for those I don't know. William Helms, my dad's 1970 Aircastle 136 F1 is all I have to remember him by. Still works like a champ. They'll have to pry me my blue icy grip often before I give it up. Yeah, absolutely. And it depends on, because there's shared frequencies. So the 60-meter band could be in a shared frequency there too. Zanzibar, much love to you. Long time haven't been on the stream. Well, nice to have you here, Mr. Lucky Train. Late stopping in, but you're for your show, Joe. Checking in late, better than not checking in. Absolutely. Nice to have you on board. Dr. Sissa barely got Transworld Radio early this morning from Guam. Cool. Haha, Prasad says some different drink. Juice, no alcohol. Welcome change. No, there's alcohol. It's just that it's orange. I ran out of cranberry juice. So, okay. Let's have a interval signal contest. How about that, guys? So, we're going to first have... Okay. What is this interval signal? That's what shortwave sounded back then. Trying to get your station in between other stations. So, Tom DX, your winner, Switzerland, Swiss Radio International. Bernie Dodge, not far away, says Deutsche Welle or Swiss Radio. It's Swiss Radio International. So, yes, that is pretty good. Pretty good. You guys are not bad. Tina Smith says, my boyfriend wants to know if... Why doesn't your boyfriend ask the questions, by the way? My boyfriend wants to know if a Magnavox Radio 789 is good. I have no idea what that is as a receiver. I've never checked that model, honestly. What else do we have? So let's check out interval signal number 2. Let's check out... let's check out... Let's check out, what is this station? Oh, this is on the right side of my earphones. Do you guys hear it in the right side of your speakers? So what is that? Let's start it at the beginning again. Yeah, Moises, Mickey Dalmage, Radio Berlin. You know what, Mickey? I don't remember that show because I don't know if in the 80s it was still there. But, you know, we have all have our little something. Welcome to East Germany. RJ Dakota, Swiss Radio. Yep. What is this? Says easy, Swiss Radio. Oh man, that brings me back in time.
Es ist 10 Uhr Weltzeit. Hier ist Radio Berlin International, die Stimme der Deutschen Demokratischen Republik.
Demokratischen Republic. That is really, really... Yeah, and with the national anthem too. Yep, absolutely. You know, one of the national anthems that I find one of the most beautiful in the world actually is Russia. I mean, I like, you know, Canada's national anthem is nice. U.S. Star Spangled Banner is very nice, but somehow there's something about the Russian national anthem that I do always like. Something about it. So I have no idea what the words are saying, but I always found that it was a beautiful national anthem. Now that you know her, I'm from the KGB. DX, I knew it. By the way, I'm all spying on you guys. Just saying. Moscow and vodka go together, huh? Yes, you have something here, SVO work. Absolutely. Oh yeah, the hunt for Red October. That was nice. Yes, absolutely. Oh man. So okay, Moises, can you explain that? So he says that is the Russian national anthem. It was the Soviet anthem, but with different lyrics. So the Soviet to Russia, did they change the lyrics to the song? That I didn't know. So they changed it. That is interesting. That is interesting. Because I wouldn't be surprised, because I mean, things did change, but I didn't know that they changed the lyrics from Russia to the USSR. So if I go to USSR national anthem, which is here, so this one with the red star, I like the fact that it has a flag with the red star. So this is an ad. Oh, YouTube and their ads. That's why I make a living. So, you know, got to think about that, guys. If you use an ad block, don't forget, I earn my living because of these. You know what? I don't like that way of thinking necessarily, but Kamaxi 76 says, I love the USA, but Soviet national anthem makes you feel like you want to go to war for them. It's more than that. You know what? That national anthem feels like we are part of something. The way they did it, the way the song is, the I don't know, there's something in it that's like, and probably, you know, somewhere when that, I don't know what age is that national anthem. It's but they probably went out and said, you know, we need something to unite the people of our country in one big way, and music is one way of uniting people. Let's have a national anthem that everybody feels like we're patriotic, we're proud, and we're, you know, I don't know, there's something about that Russian anthem that is amazingly nice. You know, whether you agree or not, and you know, I'm not even political here. I'm just musical. I'm just thinking of how beautiful this anthem is. It's not because you're not, or you're anti-Russian or whatever. It's not because of that you cannot appreciate that this, for me, is one of the best, one of the most beautiful national anthems of every country. Yeah, exactly. Like Jerry DX says, it's inspiring, makes you happy to be part of something. You know, that's maybe what we need today. A national anthem of something that makes us feel part of something. We have the problem today of we're just too distanced with each other. It's not just social distancing. You know what, Bobby? So if anybody listened to Radio of Cuba's Arnie Coro, DXers Unlimited, and so on, I think he's sick. And I think they're not talking about it, but I think Arnie Coro is really sick because the last few shows of DXers Unlimited have been done by somebody else. that sounds much younger. And already Arnie Coro a few years ago was out of the show for a while because he was really sick. And I mean, his last few shows, the voice sounded like somebody that's not 100% full health, you know. And I know that he had he had a lot of health problems at one point. So I think, you know what, maybe it's sorry to say, but you know, I mean, there's something that you know, maybe he's just like, you know, we're getting older and people kind of disappear. You know, we were talking about that. I was talking about that with I think with Sheldon Arvey at one point. We were talking about how the voices of our past and the voices of what we are used to are getting older, and there's not necessarily any replacement there. And you know, that's an example. You know, imagine Glenn Hauser. Glenn Hauser isn't young, and I know Glenn Hauser had his share of health problems. You know, these voices that we hear and we've been hearing forever, at some point might be gone. And that's why we got to appreciate hearing them, because they're not there forever, you know. I'm in the category of the young guys. And at 51, I'm an old fart, but I'm in the category of the young generation of shortwave. Old, you know, I don't know, old professors, old, all those people that are here to, you know, that were here for years to bring us the content. And we got to think about that. Nobody lives forever. And there's a lot of the voices and a lot of things from our own shortwave world is that's it. We're getting older. And Arnie Coro was a couple of years ago was out of the show for a while because he was sick. And I mean, we're getting older, you know. So it's pretty crazy. Soviet national anthem sung in English. I need to check that out. I'm sorry, guys. No, I'm not from the KGB. Well, maybe I am. Who knows? Maybe those numbers and those things that I've been listening are worth something. Let's put that mystery here. English version. So Soviet anthem. So it's a 1944 translation, apparently. So Soviet anthem sung in English. I'm curious about that one.
United forever in friendship and labor, our mighty republics will ever endure. The great Soviet Union will live through the ages, the dream of a people, their fortress secure. Long live our Soviet motherland, built by the people's mighty hand. Long live our people, united and free, strong in a friendship tried by fire. Long may our crimson flag.
It's really there to unite everybody, saying, look, let's be proud of who we are. That's an example of why communism in the USSR was able to go through for so long.
Inspired us to build the land that we love.
You know, without being political, we talked. I remember talking to my brother about World War II. And, I mean, after the Cold War and everything was like heavy, crazy times. But I remember telling my brother that told me, well, the Soviet Union had no right to do what they did. My answer to that was, they suffered so much. Why not? Because at one point when your country is being, I mean, they were a big part. And the US was amazing in what it did in World War II. But without the Soviet Union behind, it would have been a really tough war. And the Soviet Union, whatever our beliefs of communism or not, and the fact that, yes, Stalin was a tyrant and a really, really bad leader in the way he did things. I mean, thank God, for one thing, the Soviet Union and its power with the United States together, that was what helped tremendously. Because if the US would have been alone in there, it would have been a tough one, and it would have lasted a lot longer than just those 4-5 years of war. Well, 39 to 45, so 6 years. Let's just say that. Okay. I guess it depends on the year of the translation also. Maybe, Voices, Worldwide National Anthem, Baby Shark. I like that. I mean, Bobby Burgess, I think it comes from a lot of things. There was a scare of communism. I mean, when you look, if you guys look at the Cold War series on YouTube, even here in Quebec, in Canada, there was a fear that maybe your neighbor would be communist. And maybe, and people that were not bad people were accused of being communists or supporting communism, and you look at that and you're like, okay, that's kind of a bad way of acting. I'm not a supporter of communism, and we got to say here in Quebec we're in the middle. What I mean by that, in the middle, is not in the free speech. We're in the free speech, where Canada is a free speech country, but we are socialist because Quebec, and even Canada in general, has socialist ideas of how they want to have programs to help the population, which is a little at odds with the United States, which resists a lot any idea of the state controlling. So there's a big difference there between US and Canada here in those ideas. I mean, here I go to a hospital, I got my hospital card, I got my Medicare card. It doesn't cost me a penny. I go to a hospital when I'm sick and I get treated. And it's a different way of, we decided to do that here. But part of those ideas are from that side of, maybe socialism and so on. And socialism, communism often is paired too much together. We are all in our different ways of doing things, and that's fine. But I think every type of government might not be at the basics a bad thing. The ideas behind it are ideas of wanting to be good. It's the power that goes with it. So what is the problem with communism? It isn't the ideas behind it, because the ideas behind it is the population will have a state to help them. The problem is the power of the people at the top that have everything and that want to control that power craps everything out. And let's put it at the other end. When you are in a democratic country, and we had some great examples, and I won't mention anything about it, when democracy goes to its extremes of the top being a problem, it's as worse as communism being a problem. The problem is there, is power. Some people want to have power at any price. That's where the population suffers. That's all I'm going to say. But the rest is, yes, the USSR was very, it was exploiting the population like the maximum it can. It's the problem isn't like I say, problem isn't the ideology behind it. The problem is where power controls everything all the time, and that becomes a bad problem. And the USSR was an example of controlling population to a point where it is way too much. China is halfway there. China decided to do one thing that the USSR did not. China is, let's really build an economy and build stuff for everybody. Let's really let people get rich. But let people get rich without the capacity of being open. China does not let you see a video online of Tiananmen Square in 1989. They blocked that. At least, we can talk about our crappy democracies here in the US or Canada. Be unhappy of whoever was elected. Be unhappy of whoever is controlling. But we can still talk freely about what we like and don't like. So that means democracy is still working. The rest, it's up to the population to decide. And the USSR, nobody decided. The top government decided everything. In China, yeah, you might be free to be a billionaire. Well, actually, if you're a billionaire, you probably are one of those privileged that can do whatever they want. But the average population in China just wants to work, have an honest wage, but they are super controlled in every way. They cannot talk about what they want. They cannot learn everything they want to learn. That's where it's a problem. We can, how many times every country, just talk about the US and Canada, we all rant at our own governments for all sorts of reasons and all sorts of things. But at least we can rant about it. I can say Justin Trudeau is an idiot in the way that he does a lot of things. There won't be a cop here tomorrow morning or in the next 5 minutes. And if there is, I hope I'm live. Because we can say it. At least. We have free speech. We can open our minds. We can voice our own, we can say what we think, which is missing in a lot of these things, including Russia and China. Anyways, we're not there to talk about political stuff. It's crazy. Tom the Extra first noticed Glenn Hauser's name in the late 60s when he contributed to Shortwave Logging's Popular Electronics magazine. It's amazing, and he's been doing it. Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy. Absolutely. Yarabamba used to listen to national anthems of Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, and tropical shortwave. Us as shortwave listeners, especially all of us that went into even the Cold War, we've been at the forefront of everything, Oh, that absolutely. Comanche 76. Hitler decided to change his mind. That would have been tough. Absolutely. Lenny Ritchie, nice to have you. Yeah, but it was a song to unite everybody. Absolutely. You know, as much as you guys are happy to be living in the USA, which is cool. And I mean, I visited up and down the East Coast of the United States, up to Florida. Beautiful, beautiful. I would go back. Absolutely nice. I love it. I personally am extremely happy to be Canadian. You know, especially here in Quebec, it's a hard thing to go by, especially from a French, native French speaker. But I can tell you one thing. I think being proud of our country is great. And that's the thing. And if I had one thing to say about whoever watches right now here around the world is always be vigilant and be careful of the democracy you have and be careful of making sure that it goes in the right direction. And being absolutely happy of being born where you are in your own country is great. And that, you know, I don't think we should say I'm better off being this than that. I think let's just be happy of who we are. That's the important thing. Others Crafter says, I tell my story, I tell my son that the best thing Stalin ever did was team up with the US. Yeah, you know, at least that's a lot, you know. Matt says the Red Scare was like witch trials, which a way of setting scores and not about making the nation more secure. Yeah, it was sad though, because I mean, it was so sad to see that we had to go through such. It was the same here in Canada. I mean, you guys lived that, and when I look at the Cold War series, I mean, I see how the people and how actresses and actors and people in science were treated like trash for just personal beliefs and ideas that, and they were not even, you know, they were not even scary. They would not even do anything against the U.S. government or anything. And here in Canada, we had the same thing happen about at the same time. I mean, there was, you know, that scare of Bolsheviks and whatever is like, come on, it's like crazy. It's like, but you know, a lot of it was settling scores and trying to make people you don't feel like you want to see in your face kind of disappear, you know. Matt says the USSR suffered something like 80% of the European theater's debt. I have to check that figure, but they suffered like crazy. And I'm not saying that taking half of Europe and being in a Cold War was a good thing and should have been. But put yourself in the shoes of a leader of a big country like the USSR, and that it suffered so much. What are you going to do? It's human nature. It's not even wanting to be bad or good. It's, okay, you know what? It's time we settle a score. That's all. You know, the Cold War was crazy times. I lived through the last part, which is almost as heavy. The 80s Cold War was as heavy as some of the worst moments of the Cold War. I lived through that. I lived through the idea that atomic bombs would fall on me anytime. I lived through Chernobyl nuclear disaster. I lived through moments of high tension where, you know, the Korean airlines shot down by the Russians. I mean, come on. When you're in your teens and you look at the TV news and tensions are so high, it's difficult not to be at least a little bit disturbed and thinking, man, are we going to go through this without having the atomic bombs everywhere? Because this is crazy. Yeah. Bernie Dodge, let's not go there. I don't want to make the differences between South, North, and whatever. Every country has differences. I mean, here in Canada, we have our differences. I can tell you that. As a being born in Quebec, I'm the best placed guy to know that every country has its big differences. But let's talk and let's make a deal of what's the best. You know. Moises says, well, here were times, even as a kid in Peru, there was a Maoist insurgents in the 80s, and people was afraid of their neighbors because they could be members of the Shining Path. Wow. It's crazy. It's crazy, eh? You know, whatever our beliefs back then, USSR, United States, the common goal was, let's get the Nazis out of there. And that was the most important thing. That's it. To the rest, well, you know. Yeah, Prasad, exactly. The extremes are bad. In the middle, there's something good, but the extremes are always bad. Being too extreme in whatever in life is always bad. That's exactly the knowledge and the way it is. You know, we got to be careful. We're going to be careful. Oh, absolutely, Joe. That's why we got our stuff. We get our stuff at such low prices. The majority of Chinese, you know, Foxconn, which is the big maker of our computers and smartphones, employees sleep there because they do 12-hour shifts to give us our toys that us North American rich people want to buy at a cheap price. And never forget one thing. We can complain about China being bad for that. We can also raise our hands of, we want to buy the cheap stuff. We want to have the good stuff at the cheapest price possible. We're responsible also for it. It's not just a one thing. It's not just one side. They're exploiting their people. We're part of why they are exploiting their people. So don't forget, because when I bought my $1,500 laptop made in China, that thing would have been twice, triple the price made somewhere else. I participated in these people, cheap labor. It's life, okay? We got to decide. What do you want? You want to pay 4 times everything and people have a decent wage? Or you don't care about it? You know, I care about it. But at the same time, when you're not, and I'm not a millionaire, we want to have our decent technology at a decent price. We participate in all of that. It's very important to know that. Everybody's kind of guilty of it. Hey, Thomas Alston, see you Saturday. Oh, there's a lot of nations, Chastang, that have beautiful national anthems. It's not, you know, I took an example of USSR because for some reason it reaches me a lot in its sonority and the way the music is. But honestly, there are a lot of beautiful national anthems out there. Absolutely, absolutely. Yogi says, I still remember Dutch national anthem playing on Radio Netherlands, Dutch service at the end of their broadcasts. Moises says, I wish I could agree with you, Shell, but Asian societies value the well-being of the majority by suppressing individual freedoms. Yeah, you know, that's the way it is. There's a lot of places where, you know, I think it's human nature also. Fitting in a mold is what a lot of people want. And a lot of people feel that they don't feel in a mold. It's very crazy. Matt says, barely remember channels signing off when I was a kid in the 70s. Most still did, but not until 1 a.m. Yeah, here, midnight, 1 a.m. channels were signing off. Absolutely. Hey, John Doe. Yeah, apparently possible G3 storm. Absolutely. Coming in tomorrow. What else do we have? What else do we have? Marvin Mott's watch. Kennedy gave a speech about Russian nukes in Cuba and didn't know if we could have a war that night. Yeah, I watched in the Cold War series. They have a moment of that Cuban crisis. That was heavy stuff. Not knowing if crazy stuff. It's crazy stuff. Yep. The day after that was something. That was something. Can tell you that. I remember seeing that on TV. I think that's where, because people weren't fools. Already, a lot of people knew that a nuclear war is not a winning thing, and the day after just amplified that and saying, "Look, a nuclear war is not survivable." KMZ76 says some of those places in China put anti-suicide nets around the building to prevent. Yeah, absolutely. Foxconn is known to, today there was a report for all of you out there have Apple products. And one of the employees that left Apple revealed this week that Apple absolutely knew the conditions of their factories in China were horrible. People were actually committing suicide, and Apple did nothing to fix that. And if there's one company that should, is the overpriced Apple products, because the overpriced Apple products mean these people there could have been paid much more to do a MacBook or an iPhone. And I can tell you one thing, I've never been a fan of Apple. I've had a MacBook, I've had an iPhone in my life. I'm still not a fan of Apple products. They are overpriced products. But that said, if you have a MacBook or an iPhone, be happy, okay? I'm not saying that you shouldn't. But at the price they sell them, that is even worse than at least when you buy a cheap computer that costs you $300. That's why cheap labor exists. It's interesting. We're back in the communism and the we lived a lot of stuff. Communism and all of that is just crazy. And today isn't fixed. Russia is kind of going back in an old style USSR control moment with Vladimir Putin, and China isn't open and it's still quite closed to everything, except it's the big, it's the place where everything is made now. Have we changed anything in the world, really? It feels almost the same. Nothing has changed, It's pretty crazy. Matt says, I remember when the networks were pressured into making some kind of diagnostic movie because of the day after, but nobody watched that. Yeah. It's, a lot of places, the day after, a lot of places were banning the day after. They didn't want their population to see that, And it's just crazy. It's just crazy. Man. Harry says, with the price of an iPhone, you get lots of good radios. Now that I like. with the price of an iPhone, you get a lot of good radios. You know? That's true. Look, don't get an iPhone, get 20 radios. Oh God. Okay. Let's tone down here. Let's relax a little more, and we're gonna have a little something here. So let me find it. It's gonna take a few seconds. And I'm gonna find that. Okay. So here, let's check it out. Here we go. This is from December 27th. Wow. December 27th, 1987, from Radio Canada International.
You're tuned to the Christmas Weekend Sound of Canada on Radio Canada International. And for the next hour or so, the Sound of Canada has a decidedly northern and Arctic orientation, since this is the Christmas weekend edition of the Listener's Corner from Radio Canada International. A little Christmas music to serve as our opening theme this time. And I'd like to extend a very warm Christmassy welcome to you all our listeners, that is. I'm one half of the hosting duo here on the program, Ian McFarlane.
But you're the important half, Ian.
Oh, we are equally important, equally important. And the other half of the duo, whom you just heard from a second ago there, is...
Françoise Borel. Hello, everyone, and we hope that you all had a marvelous Christmas. And I think some of our listeners may... Yes. Oh, yes. We
complete with sound effects, folks.
Yes,
we have
Christmas
a few
bells
Christmas
in the studio.
bells. Christmas bells.
I think some of our listeners may have wondered what language that "We Wish You a Merry Christmas" was sung in.
I was keeping that for a surprise.
Oh, all right. I won't tell then. I won't tell. All right.
Go ahead and let the surprise.
That was in Inuktitut.
Yes, the language of Canada's native Inuit people.
That's right.
And as has become our habit in recent years on the Listener's Corner, Christmas edition, we're having a party. It's a little more reserved. We don't have glasses of wine beside us.
I was going to say it's very sedate. We only have a cup of coffee here.
Yes, I have a cup of coffee anyway. But we are nevertheless having a party, and all of the guests at our party are anywhere from 190 kilometers away to 4,300 kilometers from Radio Canada International Studios here in Montreal. And what we're having this week on the program is a Northern Canadian Christmas party, just for a change. And joining us from Ottawa is David Gray, who's with the National Museum of National Sciences. And David will be telling us a little about the Christmas he spent at Polar Bear Pass on Bathurst Island in the Arctic. And from the settlement of Frobisher Bay on Baffin Island, we have with us Craig Mackey. He'll be joining us.
And that was a broadcast from Radio Canada International, 1987. So let's check it out here. Anything else we could throw at you? We have also Swiss Radio International from September 29th, 1990. He sounds like you, my Canadian friend. Okay, that's a lot of music. Come on, talk, say something. Man, so many broadcasts from the past. It's just crazy. Radio Tahiti, 1981.
This is Radio Tahiti calling. We are broadcasting on the 49th meter band, 6,135 kilocycles. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Take care, VK Radio. Nice to have you here. There's Radio Netherlands from January 1st, 1975.
Ici, Radio Nederlande, Hilversum,
Oh, in French.
Hollande.
Radio Canada International from January 9th, 1982.
English on Radio Canada International's African service. We're now broadcasting on the following frequencies. In the 16-meter band on 17,875 and 17,820 kilohertz. In the 19-meter band on 15,325 and 15,150 kilohertz. And on the 25-meter band on 11,945 kilohertz. In about 5 minutes from now, you can hear the Shortwave Listener's Digest. But to begin with, it's the news.
Good evening. Poland's military rulers warned the West today that economic sanctions against the Warsaw government will only prolong martial law and bring more suffering to the Polish people. The warning was voiced at a news conference given by
It's interesting to see the news from back in the days,
which assumed power nearly a month ago. At the same time, authorities lifted censorship of reports by foreign correspondents, but say they must file by telex through government facilities. As censorship
HCJB, September 9th, 1979.
Test 1, 2, 3, 4,
Whoops.
5. Test.
I invite you to stay tuned for an hour of good listening from the Voice of the Andes in Quito, Ecuador. As we present Passport.
September 9th.
I have finished. All right, then. Well, then, while you're reading that next letter, let's listen to our next music.
Here's a letter after my own heart. It comes from Eddie Malfra of Beaufort, South Carolina. And he says, to the staff of Weekend Passport, I was recently listening to your program, and you mentioned that not enough people are writing to you. And by the way, Eddie, that's the situation even today. So, since you are my favorite program, I thought that I would. And he mentions, says, I was startled to find out that Travis and Margaret are leaving. They've been a great asset to the Weekend Passport program. But I'm sure, Eddie, that you've enjoyed...
I got one here that says, Joe Adamov, Radio Moscow, Impressions of the United States from December of 1980. That's interesting.
And now here's Joe Adamov to share with you some of his impressions of the United States.
21 days in America may not be a long time, but they left an indelible impression. I was invited by the University of Minnesota to lecture at the Department of Speech Communication. I'm ever grateful to Professors Donald Brown, Assistant Professor Kim Elliott, Professor William Howell, and President
Saturday,
McGraw for making the trip possible.
Always nice to have you on board.
After an uphill battle,
from
they
Hawaii.
finally got me a United States entry visa. Minnesota did it. But in the spirit of the festive season, I'll say this: let bygones be bygones. I have no grudge against Uncle Sam. The students at the university seemed bright, on the ball, and friendly, and it was a pleasure meeting them. I stayed in the home of Professor Howell and his wife Jessie, and became a member of the family. At least, that's how I felt. Though our political backgrounds may be different, we as people got along fine. Which brings me to the thought that we can and should be friends as nations too. Late one evening, I went out walking, as I often do at home. The only people I met were joggers, who on meeting me would say hi or good evening. We do the same here in small communities in the Caucasus, for instance. And what would have been their surprise had they known that the man that answered them came from Moscow, of all places. Friendly people, even to strangers. The same was true on the huge campus. The facilities, to my eye, were excellent, but coming from a country with free education, cost of tuition sounded kind of unfamiliar. I take my hat off to the Minnesota Daily, who gave a fair and unbiased account of what I said to the Murphy Hall audience. Good journalism, Eric Lindbaum, and thank you for printing a 6x6 photograph of my overweight countenance. A good picture, Jeff Goldberg. One evening, I was listening to the Bob Allard open line show on KSTP radio and phoned in a question. After a minute or so, Bob said, "The voice sounds rather familiar." And I had to admit who I was. Would you believe it? Bob Allard had been a listener to Radio Moscow for many, many years. The next day we met in a cozy restaurant, and later that evening the tables were turned. I did the answering for 3 hours on the open line show. People called from far and wide, and to quote the Minnesota Daily, the callers were courteous, and many thanked Adamov for clearing up false impressions about the Soviet Union handed down from the years of the Cold War.
Peter Harrison, you know, both countries, Voice of America, Radio Moscow, were great propaganda machines. That was life, and that is life still today, although Radio Moscow is gone.
For the United States team at Lake Placid. Let us do all our fighting on the hockey field, I said, and let's relegate the battlefield to history. Bob Allard is a...
There's so much out there. So, what is this? What station is that? Carlos Aguila. Yeah, Radio Norway, Mickey Delmage, Moises, Arthur's Autocrafters Kitchen. That was one of my favorite. It was so weird to when they it was like English only on Sunday. You guys remember that? English was only on Sunday. That was so weird. It was like, why Sunday? Why not every day of the week? Yeah, Moises, I have a few QSL cards here from Radio for Peace International. Absolutely. They were not totally welcome in Costa Rica, and a lot of friction with the government. And there was a storm or a hurricane that hit and damaged their transmitter site, and they were kind of not helped to rebuild. Take care, John Brace, 73.
Dette Norge med utlandsprogrammet. Vi sender klokka 11 gånger.
Hey, what else do we have? Wow, boing. What else do we have? What else is interesting here about? Okay. Oh, this is radio. Okay, this is a station in English from 1985.
This is Radio Tirana.
And we hear
We begin our broadcast in the English language.
the woodpecker in the background. The ta-ta-ta-ta-ta is the Russian woodpecker. Let's stop. Look at that Russian woodpecker in the background.
Tirana. We begin our broadcast in the English language. Announcement. The Central Committee of the Party of Labour of Albania, the Presidium of the People's Assembly of the People's
That's very
Socialist
communist
Republic of
announcement.
Albania,
The People's Democratic,
of the
whatever,
People's Socialist Republic of Albania,
decided that the population
the
has no
Liberal
right to
Council
speak.
of the Democratic Front of Albania. Comrades, communists, workers, collectivists, intellectuals, women, and the youth of Albania, veterans of the war and compatriots. With the deepest grief, we inform you that today, the 11th of April 1985, at 2 hours 15, the heart of the beloved and glorious leader of the party and
Oh,
our
God.
people, Comrade...
The heart of the beloved and glorious leader.
The Central Committee of the Party of Labour
Oh,
of Albania.
please. Please. IT Voix du Cap Haïtien 9635 in the 70s.
The voice of the West transmitting from Cape Town, Republic of Haiti, West Indies.
I have a QSL card from 4VEH when they were on 4930 kilohertz in the 16-meter band.
9.635 megacycles in the 31 meter band, 6.1 megacycles in the 49 meter band, and 1040 kilocycles, 290 meters on the standard broadcast.
What's the Russian woodpecker film Canadian Radio TV guy?
And now it is 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. 6 a.m. Atlantic Standard Time, 100 Greenwich Mean Time. Time for the Set Your Clock program. Good morning, friends. We're glad to be with you again.
Okay, what else do we have here? Let me check out. There was, when is that from?
Hello again. This is Travis White on the program Faster the Faster. Today I'm very happy to have with us Reverend Rob
That's
Calder.
Transworld Radio Bonaire. Okay, I'm going to check that out. Oh, it was an earthquake that hit RFPI. I thought it was a storm. Okay.
Dette P3 Transworld Radio Bonaire, Nederland Antilles. Vi spiller på frekvenser i 19-meterbåndet på kortbølgen. Vær klar til å lytte til et program på norsk etter en kort åpning med musikk.
What else else do we have? Shortwave Gold Part 1, recordings from the 1980s. What's that? Oh, that's an ad. And here we go.
Adjustment service from the Moscow radio telephone station.
Moscow radio telephone station. Wow. Oh, God.
Tuned to Canada Today, broadcasting to Western Europe. Coming up,
Cadman.
That brings me back in time.
you're tuned to Canada Today, broadcasting to Western Europe. Coming up, fever in northwestern Quebec and in our Atlantic.
Check it out, Page Master.
In science, a laser
Thanks for the info.
technologist will be Canada's second astronaut. But first, Canada marks Human Rights Day in a special way. For the first time, with a time approaching.
Oh, man.
Now, let's take a look now at the river.
Check it out. This is a station that we probably all miss. And, oh, wow. Guys, this is from my own channel. It says snowstorm listening with Radio Australia 9580 kilohertz on a Texan PL 380. A video made 4 years ago. Wow.
Probably, what was the most, controversial book is all those findings of inadequate reaction. Originally we're expecting that obviously anyone can set hand in, so feel free. I read about recently old secretary and her intention to utilize counter-terrorism powers to save British broadcasting programs before
Radio Australia via Canada. That's pretty much.
And also, if you've ever been asked to edit content or suppress a story.
So this is, and it's, so the video showing my backyard, and it's snowing, and it's white outside. And I'm holding the Texan PL 380, receiving Radio Australia on the famous 9580 frequency. Man. Oh, man. I miss older even yet. Radio Australia 7 years ago, and says testing Australia reception 9580 and 12065 on my ICOM ICR 8500.
De très sale à très propre. Faites confiance au pouvoir Sunlight.
Oh man. Too many ads. I need an ad blocker. Let's take somebody else. Okay, here's the Danny Shortwave. Danny Shortwave and Radio DX. That's use is broadcast 9580 kilohertz. I miss Radio Australia in the morning 9580.
Department of Land Allocation Forces planning a civil too, and this was Australia land settlement
Radio Australia. Man. Okay, what is this interval signal? I want to know, what is this interval signal now? We still can hear it today on shortwave. I'm just going to remove the
This is Radio Japan.
Yeah, okay.
NHK World Network Tokyo.
Radio Japan. We can still hear that today. I hear it at times.
この放送は NHK ワールド国際放送ラジオ日本です。東京からお送りします。
This is Radio Japan. NHK World Network Tokyo.
Ici, émission internationale de la NHK.
On station, you know what I was talking earlier about how happy I am to speak French. One of the stations that I used to listen to a lot back in the days was Africa Number One. Africa Number One from Gabon was one of the strong French language stations. I remember listening to they had in the afternoon a kind of a Twilight Zone style radio program where they were like radio plays of stories. And I remember listening to that and finding that so funny. Some of the stories were like, wow, okay, very basic, but you know, it was still Africa Number One. And I remember listening to them. 17630 was one of their frequencies. 9580 was also one of their frequencies. Africa Number One. Oh man. From Gabon.
Depuis qu'on est...
Okay, this one has an ad. Oh man. It's really. Yeah, the bow bells from BBC. It happens from time to time. They actually play, Matt, if you go on 6005 kilohertz, a minute or two before 05 tonight, 05 UTC, you're going to hear them. They're there every night. About a minute or two before they sign on 6005 kilohertz. I have a hard time because Radio Havana Cuba is a bad play over there, and I have a hard time. I usually listen to 5975.
Ici, Africa numéro 1, émettant de Mozambique en République gabonaise.
So, hey guys, I'm going to say goodbye. We've been on for 3 hours and 23 minutes. It was kind of fun tonight. Thank you for being here. Had a lot of fun here too. And we're going to go to next show, Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 20 hours UTC. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. And we're going to be back talking and listening and doing radio stuff for Shortwave Radio and this Saturday. So take care, everybody. Love you all. And hey, Cisco man, no worries. Come back Saturday. And hope you enjoyed the show tonight. And we'll sign off with our national anthem that we've been using for the past few weeks. And hope that you enjoy. Take care, my friends. It was really always cool to be here. And stay safe, okay? So love you all. See you Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 20 hours Universal Time.